Recording start.
Good evening, ma'am. This is the video for our digital assignment 1. So we are a team of 4. I'm Shaurya Gupta. My registration number is 19BCE1704. And followed by me, we have Sam, Mihir, and Radhika Nagra. So we have taken the topic of Tensor Processing Unit, also known as TPU, for our digital assignment 1. So Google introduced the Tensor Processing Units or TPUs in the year of 2016. So TPUs are unlike GPUs and are custom designed to deal with operations such as matrix multiplications in neural network training. So TPU is an AI accelerator application specific integrated circuit developed by Google specifically for the neural network machine learning. So the principle behind TPU is to improve the cost performance by 10x compared to the GPUs. It is widely used as it has simple design and response time is guaranteed in it. So particularly TPU uses Google's own TensorFlow software. So this TensorFlow software is an open source library which is for used for machine learning that works on many platforms like Linux, Windows, Mac OS, Raspberry Pi, Android, JavaScript, and the list can go on and on. So in the next line, we have shown a picture which shows the processor improvement, which has been incredible over the past 40 years. So the graph above shows the Moore's law. So Moore's law we have already studied in our classes. So it was a statement given by Gordon Moore in 1965 paper where he described a doubling every year in the number of components per integrated circuit. So this roughly translates to processor's performance, and it has been a remarkably good prediction until the last decade or so. So the trouble, or we can basically say the motivation behind the TPU is that we always wanted more processing power in the modern computing systems. We also needed more specific computational power, and all of these factors have led to the first tensor processing unit. So next, we show up a little analogy that would help us to understand the relation between a CPU, GPU, and TPUs. So CPUs, as shown in the left-hand side of the image in the corner, so CPUs are like printing out letters one by one, stamping them out, whereas a GPU is printing a whole line at a time, as shown as the picture above it. So on the right-hand side, we are trying to analyze TPU with it. So what TPU does is it stamps out the entire pages at a single time. So here we can see that how efficiency and the amount of work done by TPU has increased tremendously. Next, we'll go for the key components of the TPUs. So as we already studied by now, that it turns out that GPUs aren't the best tool for AI and machine learning. And therefore in 2016, Google came up with the announcement of tensor processing units. So it is a chip that was being specifically designed by Google's TensorFlow machine learning framework. So before going into the whole working of the TPUs, we must know certain vocabularies related to it so that we can understand it in a better way. So starting with the tensors, will come up. So first, I'd like to tell you about the neural networks. So neural networks have 3 basic operations to work upon. So the first one is to multiply for input data and associated weights within, add for aggregating data, and a way to apply the activation function in the result. So all of these things are needed for the neural networks. Tensors are doing the similar work. So they are the multi-dimensional arrays of what we call as matrices. So tensors are a fundamental units that can hold data points such as weights, which are being used in a neural network. So they have a format of rows and columns as it is being used in a matrices too. So it carries out the basic math operations, which we already talked about, like includes addition, element-wise multiplication, and matrix multiplication. There is one more topic associated with it, which is quantization, reducing the precision. So I would like to give a small example related to it to explain it in a better way. So so let us suppose that if it is raining outside, we do not want to know that how many droplets have fallen per second. We don't want the exact count of the droplets. Rather than what we want to know is that if it is raining heavily or if it is raining lightly. So as machine learning is used mostly for predictions, we can say that neural network predictions doesn't require the precision of floating point calculations. So this is primarily a matrix multiplication, and therefore having 64 kilobyte of 8-bit multipliers is very helpful in TPUs. So rather than that of doing 32-bit multipliers in our TPUs, we have 8-bit multipliers, so that more number of multipliers can also be put upon on the TPU. Next, we'll come upon bfloat. So the latest version of TPU handles floating point operations. So these flops are also known as floating point operations per second. So these are the unit of measure of performance of a computational operation. So the custom floating point of format in the case of Google TPUs is also known as the brain floating point format. And hence we gave it as the name as bfloat. So bfloat 16 is carefully placed within the systolic arrays. So we learn about the systolic arrays in the next slide itself, and it is used to accelerate the neural network trainings. So as stated very nicely in the PPT itself, higher the range of flops and higher will be the processing power for our TPU. Next, we'll come up to systolic arrays. So as we have already learned by now, TPUs are designed to perform matrix multiplication at a massive scale. Systolic arrays are somewhat similar to it. So because they're heavily pipelined, and given that in the diagram also, it has a 256 units wide. So it takes 250 cycles from the time the first element gets into the array to the time it comes out. So systolic arrays is a network of processors that will be responsible for performing all the computations and will pass on the results across the system. So it has a large number of processing units. And because of these large number of processing units, we're also getting a lot of amount of work being done in less amount of time. So these arrays have high degree of parallelism and are also favorable for parallel computing, as this was our basic idea behind taking up the TPU. So these all processing elements are working at the same time parallelly to help us through it. Here, the processor, as shown in the image 2, the processor are arranged in a two-dimensional grid. So where each processor will accumulate one element of the product. So by this, we can see that the matrix elements are being staggered as they work their way into the array. So by staggered, what we actually mean is a jagged array. So jagged array is an array of arrays that such that the member arrays can be of different sizes. That is, we can create a 2D array, but with variable number of columns in each row. So this picture is also taken from Geeks for Geeks, which states about the jagged array net. So as matrix multiplication is vastly used in neural networks, we have come up with this system. And TPU uses systolic arrays for large hardwired matrix calculations without memory access. So most of the chip is dedicated to matrix multiplication because that is the main agenda of taking up TPU. And after that, we give the next preference to the addition operations. So next we'll talk in depth about the working of the TPUs, different versions about it, and all of this information will be given up by my other team members.
Thank you, Shaurya. So let us look into how TPUs actually work. Tensor Processing Unit. It is a custom ASIC, which stands for AI Accelerator Application Specific Integrated Circuit, built specifically for machine learning and tailored for TensorFlow. It can handle massive multiplications and additions for neural networks at great speeds with reducing the use of too much power and floor space. So the main three steps are: the parameters are loaded from memory into the matrix of multipliers and adders, data is loaded from memory, and after every multiplication operation, the results are passed on to the next multipliers while taking summation, which is the dot product, at the same time. The output is then given as a summation of all multiplication results between data and parameters. So let us move on to the next slide. This is a TPU board. A TPU board is a single board which contains of 4 TPU chips. Each chip contains 2 TPU cores. The resources available on a TPU core vary by version. Each TPU core has scalar, vector, and matrix multiplication units, which stands for MXUs. The MXUs provide the bulk of the computer power in a TPU chip. Each MXU is capable of performing 16K multiply embedded operations in each cycle at reduced bfloat16 precision. bfloat16 is a 16-bit floating point representation that provides better training and model accuracy than the IEEE half precision representation. Each of the cores on the TPU board can execute user computations independently. High bandwidth interconnects allow the chips to communicate directly with each other. So let us move on to the next slide. This is an image of a TPU pod. TPUs were actually designed to be scaled out to a TPU pod. A TPU pod is a supercomputer that can have up to 2048 TPU cores, allowing you to distribute the processing load across multiple TPU boards. In a TPU pod configuration, dedicated high-speed network interfaces connect multiple TPU devices connected together to provide a large number of TPU cores and a large pool of TPU memory for your machine learning workloads. Each TPU board is connected to a high-performance CPU-based host machines for things like loading and preprocessing data to feed the TPUs. The next slide is about cloud TPU. So cloud, move on to the next slide, please. Yeah, so a cloud TPU is a service that gives you access to TPUs through Google Cloud Platform, which is GCP. Cloud TPU is designed for maximum performance and flexibility to help researchers, developers, and businesses train ML workloads. The hardware support built into the chips results in effectively linear performance scaling across a broad range of deep learning workloads. We can use Cloud TPU to run machine learning workloads on Google's TPU accelerator hardware. We can use the Cloud TPU API to automate TPU management for the TPUs. As a result, it is easy to scale up to massive compute clusters, run your workloads, and scale those clusters back down when the workloads are complete. So let us move on to the next slide. Okay, so this is actually a picture of Cloud TPU. It is a typical Cloud TPU and has systolic arrays of size 128 plus 128, aggregating to about 32,768 ALUs for each 16-bit floating point values in a single processor. Thousands of multipliers and adders are connected to each other directly to form a large physical matrix of operators, which forms a systolic array architecture. TPU allows the chip to be more tolerant to reduced computation precision, which means it requires fewer transistors per operation. Because of this feature, a single chip can handle relatively more operations per second. So let us move on to the next slide, which talks about TPU configurations. So Cloud TPU provides access to different TPU configurations, which include a TPU pod, a TPU slice, and a TPU board. So moving on to a TPU pod, TPUs are basically designed to be scaled out to a TPU pod, and a TPU pod is a supercomputer that can have up to 2048 TPU cores, allowing you to distribute the processing load across multiple TPU boards. In a TPU pod, all the TPU chips are connected directly to each other over a very high-speed interconnect that skips the communication delays going through the CPU cores. The chips are connected in a 2D torus, with each chip communicating directly to 4 neighbors. This architecture leads to especially high performance for common communication patterns in ML workloads like all-reduce. Architecture details and performance characteristics of TPU version 2 and version 3 are shown in the table given below. Okay, so let us move on to the TPU slices. A TPU slice is basically a portion of a TPU pod. If you do not need the resources of an entire TPU pod, you can use a portion of a TPU pod. There are a number of different slice configurations available as well. So let us move on to the next slide, which talks about a TPU board. A single board TPU configuration is a standalone board with 4 TPU chips, 8 TPU cores, and with no network connections to other TPU boards. Single board TPUs are not a part of TPU pod configuration and do not occupy a portion of the TPU pod. Okay, so next slides will be explained by Vedika.
Thank you, Mihir. So coming to different versions of TPU, the first version is TPU version 1. It was built as PCI Express expansion card and was plugged directly into the server of data centers of Google. Next slide. So answering to the question that why TPU version 1 was so successful. Firstly, the precision of chip was reduced to 8-bit rather than 32-bit to get rich set of neural networks. Secondly, for more integer multiplier units in a single chip, a technique was designed to map 32-bit to 8-bit, and this technique was known as quantization. Next slide. Matrix processor, in order to support many different kinds of operations like reading or writing to memory, etc., the hardware design must be fairly generic, but sometimes this can lead to bottlenecks due to all those memory access back and forth. Coming to the next slide. So this is the basic design for TPU version 2, and we'll move to the layout of TPU version 2. So a TPU version 2 board contains 4 TPU chips, each with 2 cores. There is 8 GB of HBM for each TPU core and 1 MXU per core. A TPU version 2 pod has up to 5 and 2 TPU cores and 4 TB of memory. Next slide. So this is the basic design for TPU version 3, and we'll go to the layout of TPU version 3. A TPU version 3 board contains 4 TPU chips, each with 2 cores. There is 16 GB of HBM for each TPU core and 2 MXUs for each core. A TPU version 3 pod has up to 2048 TPU cores and 32 TB of memory. Coming to the next slide. So, performance benefits of TPU version 3 over version 2. The increased flops per core and memory capacity in TPU version 3 configurations can improve the performance. Firstly, the TPU version 3 configurations provide significant performance benefits per core for computer-bound models. Memory-bound models on TPU version 2 configurations might not achieve this same performance improvement if they are also memory-bound on TPU version 3 configurations. Secondly, the TPU version 3 might allow deeper ResNets and larger images with RetinaNet. TPU version 3 configurations can run new models with batch size that do not fit with TPU version 2 configurations. And lastly, TPU version 3 provides improved performance and reduced computation of immediate values, but in TPU version 2 configurations, data sometimes does not fit into memory. Next slide. So in the cloud TPU VM architecture, each TPU board is physically connected to the host machine, which is called TPU host, as we can see in the figure. Coming to the next slide. How we interact with TPU host and the TPU board depends upon the TPU VM architecture we are using, which is TPU nodes and TPU VMs. Next slide. We'll talk about TPU nodes first. TPU nodes are the original TPU experience. They require an extra user VM that communicates with the TPU host over gRPC. There is no direct access to TPU host. Next slide. So coming to the TPU VMs, this is the basic picture of TPU VMs. We'll move to the next slide.
Coming to the supported frameworks like Java, JavaX, and JAX, PyTorch, and TensorFlow are the different frameworks that access TPU as shared memory. So moving on to the TensorFlow. So TensorFlow access TPUs via a shared library called LibTPU. That's present on every TPU VM. This library includes the XLA compiler used to compile TPU programs, the TPU runtime used to run compiled programs, and the TPU driver used by the runtime for low-level access to the TPU. So let's dig deeper into these frameworks. Now, like I've started with the TensorFlow. So with the TPU virtual machines, instead of Python code running on the user virtual machine, it can run directly on the TPU host. So moving on to the next, that is TPU nodes. So when we use TPU VMs, we can directly, secure shell or SSH directly to the computer, Google Compute Engine virtual machine running on the TPU host. So this gets us a root access to the machine, so we can run any code as we wish to. And we can also get access to debug logs and error messages directly from the TPU compiler and runtime. TPU VMs support new use cases that aren't possible with TPU nodes. For example, we can execute custom operations in the input pipeline, and we can use local storage as well. Because there is no user VM and there is no need for a network or a virtual private cloud or firewall between the code and the TPU virtual machine, it improves the performance of the input pipeline. Additionally, TPU VMs are cheaper because we don't have to pay for the user VMs by user virtual machine. Moving on to the PyTorch framework. Here also with the TPU virtual machines, but by PyTorch, code runs on directly on the TPU host. PyTorch runs on the CPU cloud TPU node architecture using a library called XRT, which allows sending XLA graphs and runtime instructions over TensorFlow gRPC connections and executing them on the TensorFlow servers. A user VM is required for each TPU host. That's the difference. Coming to the JAX framework, same as TensorFlow and PyTorch, with TPU VMs, there is no need for user VMs, and we can run code directly on the TPU host. JAX from cloud TPU nodes run similar to PyTorch. In that a separate user virtual machine is required for each host virtual machine. Now the question arises, where are the TPU used? So TPUs were used in the famous DeepMind's algo, where the algorithms were used to beat the world's best Go player, Lee Sedol. It was also used in AlphaZero system, which produce chess, shogi, and Go playing programs. Now Google has also used TPU for its Street View text processing services and was able to find all the text in the Street View database in less than 5 days. In case of the Google Photos, TPUs now enable the power to process over 100 million photos a day. More importantly, TPUs were also used for the brains behind the Google search results, that is the RANK brain. So coming to the limitations of TPU, non-matrix multiplication-based workloads are unlikely to perform well on TPUs. And if a workload requires high precision arithmetic, then TPUs are not always the best choice. And then neural network workloads that contain custom TensorFlow operations written in C++ are also not suitable. To summarize, the performance of TPU is certainly better than CPU and GPU, considering the factor that the main driving force for the TPU development was to make inference faster. As a comparison, consider this. CPU can handle tens of operations per cycle. GPU can handle tens of thousands of operations per cycle, but a TPU can handle up to 128,000 operations per cycle. So TPU works best in the domain of neural network inference and has solved some of the problems in CPU and GPU. Now, Google is looking to expand its services ranging from optimized search services to Android capabilities to autonomous vehicles. As we have heard about Google Pixel 6 and 6 Pro with the inbuilt Tensor chips or Tensor SoCs. So for this purpose, the research is still going on, and keeping in mind that the long-term impact and the competitive advantage of the TPU cloud. The second generation and the third generation TPU is built with better research, and hence the upcoming generations are expected to be launched with a better expertise. Thank you.
Thank you,
you.
Mohammed.
Thank you.